Hey, Chrissy, can you talk? Okay. I have a problem with my speakers. Thanks. I can fix it. How about now? Ah, good grief. One more time.
I can hear you, Ellen, but I can't hear Christy.
I can't hear words you're saying. Okay.
Can you hear me, Ellen? Christy, can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you.
There has to be talking.
So I cannot hear Christy either, but I can hear Ellen, and Ellen cannot hear me. Let's see here.
Hmm. It's all right.
This is
I'll just call in. Can you talk once more, Emily?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Some sort of problem.
You cannot hear me still?
Okay, can y'all possibly hear me now?
I
O-
hear you.
Okay. Normally I use my phone, but for whatever reason it wasn't liking me using my phone this time. So,
I think, let's see if Ellen should go out and back in, I think.
yeah, that
I'm going to
might
say.
be best. Hello, everyone. I see that we're getting people in now. Apologies for possibly being a tidbit after 9. We were having some technical difficulties, as always. Gonna wait just a couple minutes to let people filter in, and then we will get started. And can somebody give me like a thumbs up or something in the chat? Y'all can see my presentation and hear me okay? Just to verify. Okay, awesome. Okay, we'll wait just about one more minute. I see some more still filtering in, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's go on and dive in. So welcome to the challenge breakout session for the engineering challenge above and beyond. I'm Christy Wiley. I'm your Texas affiliate challenge master this year for the engineering challenge. I've done this a couple years ago as Texas ACM and happy to be back again this year. So we're going to go through an introduction, a little bit on interference, uh, some basic information about clarifications, and then we will be doing the challenge read through. And throughout the challenge read through, there will be times that then in the chat we'll make sure questions are answered. I do have a fellow RCM answering questions in the chat for me as I'm going through this. But if there's any that haven't been answered or seem to be ones that need to be answered, we'll answer those at those times. So this session is to help team managers understand the challenge. Please remain on mute throughout the entirety of this session. That way, it's just me giving the information. Use the chat to ask any of your questions. You can ask them while I'm still talking and everything, even whenever it's not necessarily a Q&A slide. And then please remember your team's competition may also be watching this session and reading the chat. So refrain from asking any questions on strategies or potential solutions. Those type of questions need to go to the International Challenge Masters, and we'll talk about those clarifications in just a bit. So first off, interference. So as a team manager, you can help your team understand the challenge and rules. So if they are asking questions of, well, can we do this, or is this material okay? You can help point them to the correct places in the challenge or the rules of the road to get that information. That is not interference. You can also provide access to learn new skills to help assist them in solving this challenge. That is like bringing in a subject matter expert on like welding or something and teaching them how to weld, not necessarily somebody who can weld that then actually welds their solution. What you can't do, you cannot ask leading questions to steer the team to a solution or to what you think is a solution. We want to know what the team thinks is a solution. So try not to influence the team of how they should go about solving this challenge. Also, do not build or create anything that the team uses in their solution. Again, we want to see what the team members themselves can do and create. We want them to showcase their talents. If the appraisers feel like there has been any interference, or a team member says that my mom or somebody helped with this, or we see team members or team managers helping, or family members, or anybody who is not a team member helping put something together of the team solution, there can be deductions for those instances. So reference the rules of the road, section 6, for more information about interference. Please remember, this program is for the kids on the team. We want to see what they can do. We don't want to see what you can do. We want to see what the kids on the team can do, please. So clarifications, there's 2 types. There's the team clarifications, which are private, and then there's published clarifications, which are public. Any clarification that is asking about specifics to your team's potential solution are private team clarifications. Each team has a total of 10 clarification questions to the International Challenge Masters, ICMs. Make sure that each clarification only has 1 question per submission. And no more team clarifications will be accepted after January 31st, 2026. So make sure you get those in before that date so they can get answered, in which we do have some regions that are pretty early in February with their tournaments. So I would suggest trying to get them in even earlier, so there's time for the ICMs to get back with the answer to your clarification. Published clarifications are whenever there is something that it is not clear in the team challenge or rules of the road that the ICMs feel like everybody needs to know, so then they write a published clarification. These will be on the DI website. So any more information that you need about clarifications, please reference Rules of the Road, section 7.L. Okay, so now to the real meat of this session, going through the challenge, above and beyond. So this challenge can be solved on many levels, ranging from the simple to complex. Focus on solving this challenge based on the intent in which it was designed. All challenge requirements must be met unless otherwise stated using the terms should or may. If you find the details of the challenge unclear, ask a team clarification, one of those private clarifications. Remember, if it doesn't say you can't, then you can. The information in the following materials is binding to all teams. Your team must read and follow this challenge in its entirety. The Rules of the Road resource for teams, and all published clarifications. You have to follow everything. So we are going to, the appraisers will hold you to every single one of those items, even if you don't read them. So please make sure to read them so we don't have to say day of, well, Rules of the Road says this. You can't do it. Team budget. The total value of the materials used must not exceed $175 US. To understand how to determine the value of your team solution, doing the team's budget, expense report categories, please see the Rules of the Road section 7.F, 7.G, and 7.H. Those will give you how to really build that expense report and determine what can and cannot be included in the price. There are things that can be exempt, and you don't have to include their costs, but you need to reference those sections to make sure you and your team understand what they can use or won't count towards their cost or will count towards their cost. Complete the presentation, including setup, in 8 minutes or less. So everything, including all the structure building and weight placement and everything, need to be done within these 8 minutes. Your team must explain elements of your challenge solution on the online tournament data form found in the resource area. A version of the form can be found at the end of the challenge for your reference. The checkmark icons pinpoint the elements that will appear on the online tournament data form. Okay, so diving into the presentation part of the central challenge. So, design and build a freestanding structure that will be assembled and then tested during your team's presentation at the tournament. During the presentation, place the structure in the base zone of the testing area, then test how much weight the structure can hold as far from the base zone as possible by placing team-created weights onto the structure. Create and present a story in which something important expands, extends, and or goes above and beyond. The thing that expands, extends, and or goes above and beyond may be anything your team chooses, tangible or intangible, alive or inanimate. The story may be set in any location, real or imaginary, and in any time period, past, present, or future. Research in media res and how it is used as a storytelling device in film, theater, and other forms of media. Begin the presentation with an in media res scene. For this challenge, an in media res scene introduces one or more characters while they are in the middle of a crucial situation. The in media res scene may show any crucial situation, including but not limited to the important thing expanding, extending, and or going above and beyond. Your team may include more than one scene that shows a crucial situation in the presentation. However, only the one in media res scene at the beginning of the presentation will earn points for section A3 on the scoring sheet. So whatever your team describes as the in media res scene is what the appraisers are going to be looking for and appraising on. So make sure your tournament data form clearly describes that. Your team may choose how long the in media res scene lasts. However, if the in media res scene is too brief, your team score may be affected. Include an expansion effect. For this challenge, an expansion effect is a special effect that uses technical methods to visually represent and or simulate the important thing from the story, expanding, extending, and or going above and beyond. For this challenge, technical methods refer to the use of principles in the fields such as chemistry, computer science, electricity, hydraulics, mathematics, mechanical engineering, physics, or structural engineering. Other technical fields are also acceptable. A team member must not be any part of the expansion effect. However, team members may operate, power, and or otherwise interact with the expansion effect. The expansion effect and the structure must not be any part of one another. However, they may be present in any order or at the same time. Your team may include more than one expansion effect in your presentation. However, only one expansion effect will earn points for A4, A5, and A6 of the scoring sheet. Your team will earn points for technical design and technical innovation based on all technical methods used or attempted during the presentation to initiate, operate, and or produce the expansion effect. If the technical methods are not successful, your team may still earn points for the technical design and innovation of the methods used in the attempt. your team score for technical design may be affected. Design and build all parts of the expansion effect using your team's own ideas and skills. Your team may incorporate commercially produced items, but for scoring, appraisers will only consider the team's changes or additions to those commercially produced items. Technical methods using less direct team member involvement may earn more points for technical design and innovation than methods that have more direct team member involvement. The expansion effect should be visible from 25 feet away. That's just saying make sure it's large enough so we don't have to have a microscope to see it. We're not actually going to be necessarily 25 feet away, making sure we can see it. Integrate the structure, the weights, structure assembly, and weight placement into the presentation. So with that, any presentation questions in the chat? I don't see any currently, but I'll give a minute if anybody has any questions. And also so I can get some water. Okay. Moving on, if there are any questions. So can we use a power source for the expansion effect? Doesn't say you can't, so you can. If there are any more presentation questions, you can still put them in the chat. Can the in-media res scene also include the expansion effect? They can happen at the same time or at different times. So as long as we can tell what is the in-media res scene versus the expansion effect. Okay. Y'all can still keep putting questions in the chat. I'm going to move on to the next section. And Ellen will help answer any questions that I've got in the chat while we move on. Okay, so structure and weight specifications. Design and build all parts of the structure using any materials your team chooses, with the exception of any materials prohibited by the rules of the road. During the presentation, the structure must not use aerosols, helium, electricity in any form, or materials not easily cleaned up, including but not limited to liquids, glitter, glue, and paint. Please note, there are no challenge-specific restrictions on the use of electricity for other portions, such as the expansion effect of your team's presentation. Just for the structure, you can't use electricity. So design the structure to be assembled from at least 2 and no more than 10 structure parts during the presentation. Each structure part must be clearly labeled 1 through 10 for easy identification. The weight of each structure part must not exceed 500 grams. Each structure part must fit inside a box with the inside dimensions of 18 inch by 18 inch by 18 inch. Your team may bring additional materials to use to assemble the structure. These additional materials together will count as one of your team's 10 possible structure parts and must be labeled with a number. These additional materials must meet the specifications in the challenge B1 and B2. If your team provides additional materials, you must bring these materials to the check-in area in a team-provided container that can fit inside a box with the inside dimensions of 18 inch by 18 inch by 18 inch. This container must not be used for any purpose other than holding additional materials. The total weight of the additional materials must not exceed 500 grams. This does not include the weight of the container. The additional materials will be weighed together during structure check-in and again after the presentation to determine the weight of the additional materials your team used. The weight of the additional materials used will be included in the assembled weight, structure weight. Design and create up to 10 weights to use for weight placement. Each team provided weight may be any physical item that meets the requirements in this section, with the exceptions of aerosols, helium, electricity in any form or materials that will cause mess or damage, including but not limited to liquids, glitter, glue, and paint, and any materials prohibited by the rules of the road. Each weight must be clearly labeled 11 through 20 for easy identification. And please make sure, actually, for both the structure parts and the weights, that they are truly clearly labeled and easily to see. Not that we've got to get like a microscope to be able to get to be able to see what it's labeled. There have been instances when things are not clearly labeled and then the appraisers maybe misidentify a weight or don't realize that a certain thing is a weight or a part. So please make sure they are clearly labeled so then the appraisers don't have to struggle to figure out what is used. Each weight must not exceed 500 grams. Each weight must fit inside a box with inside dimensions of the 18 by 18 by 18 inch. Each weight must be a single item. This means that the weight must not come apart during weight placement and become two or multiple parts. For the tournament, bring containers for storing structure parts and weights. All structure parts and weights must be placed within a team-provided container after check-in. The container or containers must have a lid or closure so they can be sealed after check-in. The container must not be used as a structure part or a weight, and the containers may be any size, shape, or material. Any tools or material used as a structure part or weight must be packed in the containers. However, tools used only to help with structure assembly or weight placement do not have to be packed into the containers. Your team should not include the cost of the container used only for storing structure parts and weights on your team's expense report. Okay. So, questions on this section of structures and weight specifications? Do the containers that contain the structured part count towards our cost limit? If they are not used in the performance, no, and they should not. I would say do not use them as part of any part of the performance. Each structure part cannot exceed 500 grams, or each structure part cannot exceed the 500 grams. The whole structure, since there is potentially 10 structure parts, each not able to exceed 500 grams, then the whole structure itself should not necessarily exceed like 5,000, but again, 5,000 grams, so 5 kilograms. But focus on the structure part, not each individual structure part not exceeding 500 grams. That is the true requirement. Any other questions on this? Okay. If not, moving on. Okay, so check-in procedure. So engineering challenge is different than all of the other challenges. We have both check-in time and prep area time. Everyone else just has their prep area time, which is 20 minutes before the presentation time. We have at 1 hour before your presentation time, you need to be at check-in. And this isn't with all of your props and everything and all of your costumes. You don't have to bring all that. This is only your structure parts and weights. So, the check-in appraiser will verify that your team has at least 2 and no more than 10 structure parts. The check-in appraiser will verify that each structure part, including any additional materials your team brings, meets the material requirements and is clearly labeled. Again, make sure it's clearly labeled 1 through 10 for easy identification. The check-in appraiser will verify that your team has no more than 10 weights, and that they will verify that each weight meets the material requirements and is clearly labeled 11 through 20 for easy identification. The check-in appraiser will have a team member place each structure part and each weight one at a time inside a tournament provided box with the internal dimensions of 18 by 18 by 18. So each structure part needs to be able to individually fit into that 18 by 18 by 18. Each weight individually need to fit into that 18 by 18 by 18 inch box. The box will have a lid and that will be closed once the structure box part or weight is placed inside to confirm that it meets the size requirement. A structure part or weight must fit within the box with the lid closed without distorting the box. If your team is using additional materials as one of your 10 structure parts, the container with the additional materials will be placed into the box during this process to confirm that the additional materials container meets the size requirement. And I saw, each structure part, not the entire structure, each structure part individually has to fit into the 18 by 18 by 18 inch box, not the entire assembled structure. Your entire assembled structure should be large. I would recommend is probably larger than the 18 by 18 by 18. The check-in appraiser will instruct your team to place each structure part and weight one at a time on a scale. Once the scale reading stabilizes, the appraiser will verify that the structure weight or structure part or weight does not exceed 500 grams. Again, this is each individual structure part and each individual weight does not exceed 500 grams. The appraiser will record the official weight to the nearest tenth of a gram. Additional materials, but not part of a structure / weight, should go into a container. So if any additional materials your team plans to use to assemble the structure will be weighed at this time. The check-in appraiser will instruct your team to take the additional materials out of the container and place them on the scale together. Once the scale reading stabilizes, the appraiser will verify that the weight of the additional materials does not exceed 500 grams. After the materials have been weighed, the appraiser will instruct the team to put them back into the container. If any requirements have not been met, the appraiser will make every effort within reasonable scheduling constraints to allow the team the time to bring the structure parts and or weights into the compliance. Again, this is important why you want to get there whenever it is the hour before your presentation, 1 hour before your presentation time. So your team has as much time as possible in case there are any issues to bring the structure parts and or weights into compliance. So please, please, please show up 1 hour before your presentation time to check in. When check-in is complete, your team will place the unassembled structure parts and individual weights into the team supplied storage containers, and an appraiser will seal the containers. The structure parts and weights must remain in a designated place in the check-in area until approximately 20 minutes before your team's scheduled presentation time. That's when the team should be going to prep area. 20 minutes before this presentation time. At that time, 20 minutes before the presentation time, one or more team members need to come back to the check-in area to get their containers with their structure parts and weights and carry them to prep area. We're not going to have appraisers necessarily shuttling those back and forth. So it is your team's responsibility to go back to check-in to get their containers and bring them to check-in. Team members must not break the seal on the containers until the prep area appraiser tells the team to do so. If the team arrives in the prep area with a container with a broken seal, your team will be required to go back to check-in and have your structure parts and weights within that container rechecked. So do not break that seal. That's going to cost your team time. After the presentation, if your team used any additional materials during structure assembly, the appraisers will weigh any remaining additional materials to determine the amount of additional material your team used to assemble the structure. The appraisers will adjust your team's assembled structure weight based on this measurement. The appraisers may also recall the structure parts and weights after your team's presentation to verify that all requirements were met and or reweigh the structure parts and or weights. Depending on the tournament, this may happen at the presentation site or the check-in area. The structure parts, weights, and containers will be returned to your team. Okay, so check-in procedure questions. So structure disassembled does not have to fit one at a time in the box. They will put part one, yes. So the process, structure part one will go into the box. They will close it, make sure that it meets the 18 by 18 by 18 specification, open it back up. They will take out team members will take out part one. Then they will put in structure part two. Same thing, close the lid, make sure it fits, open it back up. This will be repeated for each part, each individual part, is measured and each individual part is weighed. So each individual part needs to fit within 18 by 18 by 18 inch box. Each individual weight needs to fit inside that same box, all individually. They don't have to all 10 go in at the same time, one at a time, and then one at a time. Each structure part will be weighed to make sure it's no heavier than 500 grams. So part one will go, we'll weigh it, verify it's not over 500 grams. It'll be taken off by the team member. Part two will go on, so on and so forth. Uh, will they seal each part of the structure separately? No. It depends on the team has however they want to contain each. If they want to have a container for each structure part, they are welcome to. That just might be cumbersome to bring into the presentation area. I would expect for the most part that there may be one large box for all the structure parts and maybe one large box for all the weights. But it's up to the team how many containers you have. But I mean, don't necessarily make it hard on your team and have 10 containers for your parts and 10 containers for your weights, because that's just a lot to juggle. The container is team provided. We will not be providing containers. We may have like some brown bags or something. Do not count on that there is any team tournament provided container. It is a team provided container. Can the structure box that is sealed also be used? The identification sign isn't scored. So for me, the structure box could, that you're using to the container for your structure parts and everything, you can have it as your identification, like have your identification sign on that. That doesn't matter to me. Yeah, so you can use as many containers as you want to carry your weights and structure parts. So whether it is one giant one for all your weights and structure parts, that's fine. You can have one for structure parts and one for weights, that's fine. Or you can have 10 of each, that's fine. Just whatever your team decides. Those containers are not to be used as part of the team's solution. So please, like, just don't make it cumbersome on your team. Can we assemble each structure part in prep area? If no, assembly does not happen until presentation time begins. Can we use hydraulic assembly and expansion effect? Any restrictions on liquid? That is something specific to your team solution. I recommend you do a private team clarification for that. There are restrictions on materials in the rules of the road. I cannot recall at this time if there is one in general on liquid. You will need to verify that. There is for sure a restriction on liquid for the structure parts and weights. So no liquid there. Okay. Moving on. So the testing area setup. A tournament provided testing area will be secured to the floor in the presentation area. All tests must be conducted using this testing area. The testing area will include a base zone and 12 measurement zones on each side for a total of 24 measurement zones. The inside edges of the tape mark the boundaries of the testing area. The base zone will be 60 centimeters by 100 centimeters. The 4 measurement zones closest to the base zone on each side will be 20 centimeters by 100 centimeters. The next 4 zones on each side will be 15 centimeters by 100 centimeters. And the last 4 measurement zones on each side, farthest from the base, will be 10 centimeters by 100 centimeters. A line that divides measurement zones will be considered part of the measurement zone that is farther from the base zone. So just so you can see then what this 20, you've got your 20 closest to your base zone, then you go to 15 centimeters, then you go to 10 centimeters. And it's all 100 centimeters wide. Your team must not place any props, costumes, scenery, or any other items not used for structure assembly or weight placement into the testing area at any time. The appraisers must be able to see the measurement zones, base zone, structure, and weights throughout structure assembly and weight placement. If your team places anything near the testing area that blocks the appraiser's view, your team will not be able to proceed with structure assembly or weight placement until the materials are removed. So please do not put something that is intentionally blocking the appraiser's view. Try to keep things clear so we can see the testing area at all times. During structure assembly, your team may place the structure and or structure parts, the weights, the containers, and any tools your team will use for structure assembly in the testing area. However, your team must remove everything except the assembled structure from the testing area before you begin weight placement. This includes any unused structure parts. Depending on the tournament, the testing area may be taped directly to the floor, or it may be constructed on another material, such as a tarp or carpet squares. If the testing area is constructed on another material, the material will be secured to the floor. If your team wishes to know the specifics of the testing area for your tournament, your team may check with your tournament director. So, test area setup. Scoring is going to be discussed later on. It is in the engineering challenge section 4, starting on page 22. Why are there zones? The zones are so then the appraisers know how, depending on how far it is from the base zone, a team will get more points for a weight that is placed in the zone absolute farthest from the base zone versus a weight that is closest to the base zone. There is the calculations of how the scoring goes for weight placement, which we will go over later. Can a weight be used as a prop? I don't believe that there is anything saying that you can't. The kids are choosing where to put the weights. Yes. Yeah, this is all up to the kids. The appraisers do not direct the students, the kids on what to do or where to place anything. We are there for appraising, so we are watching. If there are questions asked, we can sometimes answer them depending on what the question is. And we're there to make sure that nothing is happening that is unsafe. Anything else? Okay. Structure assembly. So after the 8-minute presentation time starts, your team will complete structure assembly. Your team may choose to assemble the structure inside and or outside of the base zone. So wherever in the presentation area that the kids want to assemble the structure is fine. The assembled structure may extend beyond the testing area in any direction as long as all floor contact points are fully within the base zone. However, only weights placed fully above the measurement zones, which are outside of the base zone, will be eligible for scoring. Structure assembly is complete when all of the following requirements are met. Each structure part your team intends to use during weight placement is physically connected and or touching at least one other structure part. All places where the assembled structure touches the tournament provided testing area are fully within the base zone and not touching the tape that marks the edges of the base zone. The assembled structure is not attached in any way to the tournament provided testing area. So your team cannot tape or Velcro or anything their structure to the tournament provided testing area, even within the base zone. The assembled structure is freestanding and not attached to or touching any other material or team members. The weights, the container, any tools your team used for structure assembly, and any structure parts your team will not use for weight placement are removed from the base zone and measurement zones. The weight placement appraiser will make note of any structure parts that will not be used for weight placement. Your team should also place all unused additional materials back inside the team provided container before the end of structure assembly so that they can be easily reweighed after the presentation. Your team will signal to the appraisers that your team has finished structure assembly and is ready for weight placement. If your team does not signal the appraisers will use their best judgment to determine when structure assembly is complete. The appraiser's decision is final. The weight placement appraiser will verify that all structure assembly requirements are met. If not, the weight placement appraiser will indicate the reason. The presentation time will not stop. Your team must successfully complete structure assembly before beginning weight placement. If your team proceeds with weight placement without meeting all the requirements for successful structure assembly, your team's efficiency ratio will be 0 in most cases. So it is extremely important that when your team is done assembling their structure, they make sure that they let the appraiser, the weight placement appraiser, know that they are done. So then the weight placement appraiser can tell them, yes, you are good to start weight placement, or no, you haven't met whatever requirement. So, structure assembly questions. Can we make the bottom of our structure sticky? That I would say is potentially adhering to the testing area. I would not recommend making the bottom of your structure sticky. That can, there's level of stickiness and from how it sounds, you probably need to do a private clarification on that. Anything else? Okay, moving on. Weight placement. Begin weight placement at any time after the weight placement appraiser has verified that your team has completed structure assembly successfully. Weight placement begins when your team attempts to place at least one weight anywhere on the structure. Your team should attempt to place the weights on the structure above the measurement zones as far from the base as possible. This means that all parts of a placed weight are within the vertical planes marked by the inside edges of the testing area. Placed weights must not touch the floor. Team members must not hold the structure in position or support a structure part or previously placed weight during weight placement. However, incidental or accidental touching will not impact the eligibility of the weight that is placed. Previously placed weights must not be intentionally moved, repositioned, and or adjusted by a team member or by anything else. However, incidental or accidental touching or movement will not impact the eligibility of the weight. The weight will be recorded according to the measurement zone in which it was originally placed. The appraiser's decision is final. Only weights that meet all of the following criteria will be included in the efficiency ratio. The weight is placed directly onto the structure so that it is supported only by the structure. While placing a weight, a team member was not holding or supporting a structure part or previously placed weight. The weight is not touching the floor and is placed fully above the measurement zones. The weight is not supported by or attached to another weight. However, placed weights may touch one another. The weight was not intentionally moved, repositioned, and or adjusted after being placed. The weight does not come apart during weight placement. The weight remains visible during weight placement. The weight remains on the structure until the end of weight placement. Your team may place weights in any order and or at the same time. Your team may choose whether the weight is placed on the top, the sides, around, within, and or under the structure part that it is supporting. Your team may choose how many weights to place above a single measurement zone. However, keep in mind all of the requirements for weights that will be included in the efficiency ratio up above. A weight is considered to be placed when your team member or your team signals to the weight placement appraiser that you are done placing the weight. Your team may reposition and or adjust the weight before signaling. If your team does not signal the appraisers, The appraisers will use their best judgment to determine when a weight has been placed. The appraiser's decision is final. So again, make sure your team is signaling to the weight placement appraiser. Once a weight has been placed, a weight placement appraiser will record the measurement zone over which the weight has been placed. This will be measured from the part of the weight closest to the base zone. The weight placement appraiser may use a tool such as a plumb bob or measuring stick to determine the measurement zone. If the weight placement appraiser uses a tool to determine the measurement zone, they will not touch the structure or weights in any way. Any previously placed weight that falls off the structure during weight placement must not be placed back onto the structure. During weight placement, pieces of the assembled structure may become separated or fall off. These parts may touch the floor outside of the base zone, including within the measurement zones, as long as the parts are completely separated from the rest of the assembled structure. In this case, any weights that were previously placed on the separated structure parts will not be included in the efficiency ratio. And your team must not place those weights on the remaining part of the assembled structure. Your team may continue to place any previously unplaced weights on the remaining part of the assembled structure as long as the remaining part still meets all requirements of the structure assembly. The structure's weight will not be adjusted to account for the separated parts. Your team must not modify or repair the structure or previously placed weights after weight placement has begun unless your team first removes all weights from the structure. The presentation time will not stop, and the previously placed weights will not be included in your team's efficiency ratio. After all weights have been removed from the structure, your team may make any modifications or repairs and then attempt weight placement again. Once the weight placement appraiser has verified that the structure assembly requirements have been met again. In this case, any weight that has been placed on the structure previously must be placed again to be included in your team's efficiency ratio. Your team may choose to place that weight again whether or not it previously remained on the structure. Weights may be placed in any order. So if the team needs to modify or repair the structure, they have to take all the weights off. Everything resets, basically. So they have to go through the process of getting the weight placement appraiser to say that yes, the structure assembly is as it needs to be. It is all within the base zone. It's not being supported by anything else other than the structure parts. All of that from the previous section. And then everything, all the weights can happen again. So anything that was previously done is erased. No previously placed weights count. You have to place them all again. Team members who are participating in structure assembly and/or weight placement must wear closed-toed shoes. Please make sure that they've got closed-toed shoes on. This is for their safety. Okay, so weight placement questions. If a weight is on the line of a zone in between two zones, will the farthest zone be counted? Just a sec, sorry. I've got to double check my notes. this will be measured from the part of the weight closest to the base zone. So if it is if a weight is over two different zones, it will be counted as the zone closest to uh, the base zone. So, how will the team verify that the structure is complete? The team, whenever they believe they are done assembling their structure, which they should know when they have placed all of their structure parts, what is complete, they will signal to the weight placement appraiser saying that we're done assembling our structure. The weight placement appraiser will verify that it meets the requirements in section E.4 on page 12 of the engineering challenge, that it meets all of those requirements, and that at that point, weights placed, like weight placement, can go on. If it does not meet any of those requirements in section E.4, then it the weights will not count. So they need to get the weight placement appraiser to say, yes, your structure assembly is good. It is within the requirements of the challenge. Can we have something suspending above the structure? Does our structure have to be flat? These are questions that are specific to your team's solution. I recommend you do a private clarification. Does it matter where you put the weights on the structure? You can put the weights wherever you want on the structure, as long as it is on parts of the structure that are above the testing area. So it needs to be over one of those zones outside of the base zone to be counted for scoring. You can have parts of your structure that are extending outside of this huge testing area, like if it was towards where it says figure A of the testing area. Weights that are placed outside of the testing area will not be accounted. So if, again, the team has an arm extending out towards where it says testing area, and it is not over one of the measurement zones, and they place a weight there, it won't be counted. All the weights need to be over the testing area. Okay. End of weight placement. Weight placement will end in one of the following ways. Your team elects to stop weight placement. Your team may do this at any time during the 8-minute presentation. All the weights your team has brought for weight placement have been placed on the structure. The structure breaks or comes apart, and no remaining part of the assembled structure is able to support additional weight. The structure no longer meets the requirements of structure assembly, or the 8-minute time limit ends. Your team may use the entire 8-minute presentation time for a structure assembly and weight placement, regardless of whether or not your team has ended the performance of your story. Your team may also use the entire 8-minute time for your presentation, regardless of whether or not weight placement has ended. So there have been plenty of times where a team has finished up the presentation, but then keep going with finishing the engineering portion of this, doing like weight placement. So the team can do whatever they want during that 8-minute time limit. So it doesn't hurt to use all of that time if weight placement has not completed. Any end of weight placement questions? Okay. Risk taking. Your team will earn points for risk taking in the design and assembly of the structure, and for risk taking in the design and placement of the weights. For this challenge, risk taking means including potentially precarious elements in the design and assembly of the structure and in the design and placement of the weights, while still meeting the specifications and requirements outlined and following the safety guidelines outlined in the rules of the road. Risk-taking is more effective when the structure and the weights are designed in a novel way, extending beyond the minimum requirements and or demonstrating a higher degree of complexity and or difficulty than required. Scores for risk-taking will also take into account the novelty, complexity, and or difficulty of the methods, techniques, and or strategies your team uses to overcome the risk-taking in your solution. Risk-taking in the design and assembly of the structure may be demonstrated in many different ways, including but not limited to the use of materials to create the structure, the way the structure parts touch and or are attached to one another, the use of balance, the height of the structure, and the way the structure supports itself and or the weights. Other ways of risk-taking are also acceptable. Risk-taking in the design and the placement of the weights may be demonstrated in many different ways, including but not limited to the use of materials to create the weights, the size and or shape of the weights, the way the weights touch and or are attached to the structure, the placement of the weights relative to the structure parts above, to the side, and or below, and the use of balance. Other ways of risk-taking are also acceptable. If no weight is successfully placed on the structure, your team may still earn points for risk-taking in the design and assembly of the structure as long as your team attempts to assemble at least 2 structure parts. Your team may still earn points for risk-taking in the design and placement of weights as long as your team attempts to place at least 1 weight. However, your team's scores for B2 and or B3 of the scoring may be affected. Any risk-taking questions? Okay. Structure scoring. So this is giving then what the equations are for actually scoring the structure. So the assembled weight or assembled structure weight, ASW, is determined by adding together the weight of each structure part used for structure assembly and weight placement. So the assembled structure weight equals structure part 1 plus structure part 2 plus structure part 3. Whatever structure parts are used whenever the structure is actually assembled is what is going to be used here. So whenever the team says that to the weight placement appraiser that yes, my structure is assembled, they will take note of which structure parts are being used at that time, and that's going to be noted, and that is going to then be what the assembled structure weight is. Then there's an example that y'all can read that is in the challenge itself on page 17. Um, Next, the weight value of the weight placed on the structure and held until the end of weight placement is determined by multiplying its weight in grams by the distance of the measurement zone over which the weight was placed in centimeters. So the weight value, so each placed weight will have its own weight value. So weight value of placed weight number one will be whatever its recorded weight is from check-in times whatever distance it is from the base zone. Whatever measurement zone it is over that is closest to the base zone. So if a weight weighs 479.3 grams and is placed above the 170 measurement zone, its weight value would be 81,481. So every single weight will have its own weight value. So then the weight value held, WVH, is determined by adding together the weight value of each weight placed on the structure and held until the end of weight placement. So again, this is why it's important for your team to tell the the appraiser why when they are finished with weight placement, so then they can make sure that they have weights 1, 5, and 7 if that is what the team has on their structure and they have it placed. They can make sure that they have those recorded, and so then the weight value held would be weight value of weight number 1 plus weight value of weight number 5 plus weight value of weight number 7. The efficiency ratio is the weight value held divided by the assembled structure weight in grams, measured to the nearest tenth of a gram, rounded to 2 decimal places. So the efficiency ratio is the weight value held, which we just talked about, divided by the assembled structure weight in grams, which is that what we talked about in bullet point number 1. So if the weight value held is 326,356 and the structure's total weight is 1,004.3 grams, the efficiency ratio is 324.96. So that will be recorded as then the efficiency ratio and what goes on their scoring. So any structure scoring questions? Okay. Structure compliance. If any of the structure parts do not meet the specifications in section 1B, and if your team is unable to bring that structure part into compliance within the specifications, your team must not use that structure part for a structure assembly or weight placement. If your assembled structure does not meet the specifications in section 1B and 1E, and if your team is unable to bring it into compliance within the specifications, your team efficiency ratio will be 0. However, your team may still present your solution and earn points for the other challenge requirements. Any team that does not make a good faith attempt to present a structure for testing may earn parts for other challenge requirements, but will not advance to the next tournament. If any of the weights do not meet the specifications in section 1B, and if your team is unable to bring that weight into compliance within the specification, your team must not use that weight for weight placement. Structure compliance questions. Okay, going on. Team choice elements. So this, if you've done DI before, this is all the same. So we're getting there. Present 2 creations that show off your team's interests, skills, areas of strength, and talents. Your team may create anything you wish, including props, music, technical gadgets, costumes, physical actions, etc. Each team choice element should have a meaningful connection to your team's central challenge solution and must be presented as part of the 8-minute presentation. A team choice element must not be a specific item that is required in the central challenge that is already being evaluated. A team choice element may be a single unique part of a required item as long as it can be evaluated as a standalone item. Or a team choice element may be a part of a larger item that includes a required element as long as the required element can be evaluated as a single unique part of the team choice element. Examples of these can be found in the rules of the road. Both team choice elements may be presented at the same time only if both can be easily identified and scored separately. Each team choice element will be evaluated in 3 ways: for creativity and originality, for quality, workmanship, or effort that is evident, and for integration into the presentation. Any team choice element questions? Okay. At the tournament presentation area, the minimum required size that they will have is 20 foot by 20 foot. This 20 foot by 20 foot area will be including that large testing area. So your team should not be practicing in a 20 foot by 20 foot area and then expecting also then the testing area to be outside of that in addition to. So the minimum area would be 20 foot by 20 foot, which includes the testing area. Your team may use any additional space that the tournament officials designate as available, but your team should be prepared to present your solution in the minimum space. In most cases, the 20 foot by 20 foot area will not be taped. Keep in mind that not all tournament venues can guarantee a ceiling height above 7.5 feet high. The presentation area will be a large space with a hard floor such as wood, linoleum, concrete, or very short napped carpet. Your team should be prepared to deal with a variety of floor spaces, surfaces. A single 3-prong electrical outlet will be provided at the edge of each presentation area for your team's use. Your team should keep in mind that the testing area will occupy a portion of the presentation area. Forms, your team will need to fill out the online tournament data form, expense report, and prep checklist, which includes the Declaration of Independence. They're all found in the resource area. So they may not be available until closer to the tournament date. The tournament guide for teams will be released in January and will include a step-by-step guide to filling out your team's forms online. Team identification sign. Your team should provide a freestanding sign displaying your team's name, number, school organization, and level. It's the purpose is only to identify your team to the appraisers. See the rules of the road about the team identification sign. And you'll also have an instant challenge that is worth 25% of your team's overall score at the tournament. I don't know what goes on in Instant Challenge. I'm not an Instant Challenge challenge master, so I can't answer anything there. Okay. Scoring. So the central challenge is up to 240 points. So 120 of those 240 points for the central challenge are for the story. So up to 25 points will be for the creativity of the story. Uh, Up to 15 points for the clear and effective storytelling. Up to 20 points for the dramatic impact of the in media res scene. Up to 15 points for the technical design of the expansion effect. Up to 15 points for technical innovation of the expansion effect. Up to 15 points for the theatrical effect of the expansion effect, and up to 15 points for the integration of the structure, the weights, structure assembly, and weight placement into the presentation. Then the other 120 points of the central challenge that makes up 240 points comes from the structure. So up to 80 points comes from the efficiency ratio. So that's the structure's assembled weight plus or then all of the weight values. So depending on what the actual weight is, times then the distance it is from the base zone. And then that's going to create your efficiency ratio. And then your team score will be the team's, whatever your efficiency ratio is, divided by whatever the highest efficiency ratio is in at the tournament's competition for this whatever team's level is, times 80. Then risk taking in the design and assembly of the structure will be up to 20 points, and risk taking in the design and placement of weights will be up to 20 points. Then there are up to 60 points for team choice elements, 30 points for each of them. Each of them will be scored individually on creativity and originality for up to 10 points, quality, workmanship, or effort that is evident, up to 10 points, and integration into the presentation, up to 10 points. So then below you can see your central challenge. It is a 50-50 split between the story / presentation and the structure and how it is assembled and everything and how much weight it holds. Then your team's total score for the challenge will be 25% instant challenge, 60% will be the central challenge, which is the combination of story and structure, and then 15% is the team choice elements. Then there's the tournament data form. At the end of the engineering challenge, there are 4 pages for reference of what the tournament data form will be asking. You will actually submit this online. It includes your required forms checklist, a brief description of, has you fill out a brief description of the team choice elements so the appraisers know what they're looking for. Please make these descriptive. Give the appraisers lots of information. It's better to be verbose than to have like 5 words. Brief description of the scored elements. So again, telling the appraisers what you want them to score, and you again make this descriptive so we know exactly what to look for and we won't miss it. If your team uses AI, you need to provide a brief description of how your team used AI in your presentation, and then there's a section to go over how your team used the creative process. So, any questions for at the tournament scoring and or tournament data form questions? Um, I can't answer the question about if there's a separate fee for the tournament, and if is the challenge team fee encompassing the tournament fee. I don't think so, but that's something you're going to have to talk with your regional director about. I believe that there's you paying for access to the challenge is to big DI versus the tournament is put on by the individual regions or affiliates. So those are different. I mean, they all fall under the same umbrella, but each group is taking care of their own finances. So talk to your RD, but I think that there would be still a tournament fee. Team provided, so some old ones, team provided container can be any size. Yeah, it's not scored. That are other than if it's for additional parts. The team provided container for any additional structure parts needs to still fit within that 18 by 18 by 18. But anything that is just holding, where all the structure parts or weights will be carried from check-in into a prep area and into the presentation area, they can be any size. Someone asked to go back over structure compliance J3. Any team that does not make a good faith attempt to present a structure for testing may earn parts for the other parts of the challenge. So that would be for like basically the story part of the challenge. So they wouldn't earn any points basically for section B because they didn't have a structure. So there's no way to score that, but they can still earn points for the team choice elements and the story. But if they do not have a structure and do not attempt to bring a structure, despite how wonderful their story and team choice elements may be, they will not advance to the next tournament if they do not bring a structure or the appraisers do not believe that they actually attempted to present a structure. Any other questions? I can just give 1 minute, but can the thing that expands be a team choice element? I can't, without getting more details of what you mean by that, I can't give you any details. That sounds like, again, something that you need to do a team private clarification for to be able to determine. So look in the rules of the road over the team choice elements. You can have something that is maybe a single unique part of a required element, as long as it can be evaluated on a standalone item, or the team choice element may be a larger part that includes a required element, as long as the required element can be evaluated as a single unique part of the team choice element. Tools that we use, not part of the structure, still need, no. Tools that are not going to be any part of the structure They are they do not need to be weighed. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I hope that this was helpful. Um, and I've enjoyed this, and this was recorded, so you can end up getting more information um, later on, or like rewatching this, and anything that you need to rewatch will be available. Uh, so thank you very much. And I hope to see y'all at Lone Star Finals. Thank you. Bye.